Yes, students, I am Monica Soral from Myanmar International School, Nayagaon. Today we will be doing the 14th chapter of History, India After Independence, Part 2. Yes, India's progress and development after independence. After obtaining independence, India took great efforts in improving agriculture and industry. The Planning Commission was set up by the government in 1950, which was to frame suitable policies for economic development. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was its first chairman. यहाँ पर जो प्लानिंग कमीशन बनाया गया था 1950 को, ये डिसाइड करने के लिए कि इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट कैसे हो कंट्री का, इसके जो फर्स्ट चेयरमैन थे वो थे पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू. अ मिक्स्ड इकोनॉमिक मॉडल वॉज अडॉप्टेड according to which both the state and the private sector would play important and complementary roles in increasing production and generating jobs. अब यहाँ पर दोनों को अपॉर्चुनिटी दी गई, प्राइवेट और पब्लिक सेक्टर को, कि वो लोग किसी तरह से अपने जो इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन है कंट्री की उसको इम्प्रूव करें, उसको डेवलप करें. 5-year plans were formulated by the Planning Commission to ensure growth and progress across different sectors. These plans laid emphasis on developing heavy industries such as steel and building लार्ज डैम्स. अब ये वाली चीज़ जो है उसको इम्प्रूव किया, डेवलप किया गया हैवी इंडस्ट्रीज़ को, स्टील इंडस्ट्रीज़ को. इंडियाज़ फॉरेन पॉलिसी. सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर एंडेड इन 1945 को सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर का एंड हुआ था. आफ्टर कॉजिंग मैसिव डिस्ट्रक्शन एंड डिवास्टेशन, द यूनाइटेड नेशंस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, दैट इज UNO, was formed in 1945. This organization was set up with the aim of promoting cooperation, understanding and peace among the nations and to prevent the outbreak of wars. इसको इसलिए बनाया गया था कि जो वॉर है जिसने बहुत सारे डिस्ट्रक्शन किया था, बहुत सारे लोगों की जाने गई थी, उनको इस चीज़ से बचाने के लिए they had formed this UNO so that they can tackle everything peacefully. They said that you have to avoid war and just settle down all the disputes peacefully. So after the end of Second World War, the USA and the former USSR emerged as supreme power. Rivalry between these two powers led to the formation of two groups of power blocks. दो blocks बनाए गए थे, एक था Western bloc led by USA and its allies, and the Eastern bloc led by the Soviet Union, that is USSR and its allies. The Cold War, often dated from 1947 to 1991, was a period of deep suspicion and mistrust between these two blocs. Though there were no actual outbreaks of war during this time, an atmosphere of tension, mistrust and suspicion prevailed due to the differences in political ideologies of the two groups. अब इनकी वजह से बहुत ज़्यादा टेंशन्स वहाँ पर कंट्री में हो चल रहा था, फुल वर्ल्ड में ये टेंशन चल रहा था. Each bloc signed treaties among themselves to come to each other's aid in case of an attack from the opposing bloc. Every minor situation threatened to blow up into a major conflict, and the Cold War made it seem that the world was. अब ये जो थी Cold War देखो चल रही थी, हालांकि इनको मना करा गया था कि don't do anything, solve everything peacefully, but वो लोग नहीं मान रहे थे और Cold War उनके अंदर चली हुई थी. This was also the period when colonial empires were collapsing and many countries were gaining independence. Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister and also India's first Foreign Minister, did not want to join either of the two blocs. He evolved India's foreign policy in this context called the non-alignment. अब यहाँ पर इनके जो फाइट हो रही थी उसमें अपने इंडिया को, जवाहरलाल नेहरू वॉज अ प्राइम मिनिस्टर, उनको इंटरफेयर नहीं करना अच्छा लग रहा था. ही सेड दैट वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू जॉइन द सच थिंग्स. तो तब उन्होंने एक फॉरेन पॉलिसी बनाई थी जो non-alignment means we are not going to join anything. Now NAM. Now what is NAM? The non-aligned movement. Non-aligned movement is called, in short we'll write NAM, was launched by India and other newly independent countries. Nehru, along with Sukarno, Indonesia's president, Gamal Abdel Nasser, Egypt's president, Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's president, and Joseph Broz Tito, Yugoslavia's president, laid a foundation of the NAM. अब इन्होंने सारों ने मिलके non-aligned movement का एक ग्रुप बना लिया, which were not going to join that bloc because they were just going on fighting for their rights, so they were not joining them. Now here India along with 29 newly independent Asian African countries met at Bandung, Indonesia in 1955 to discuss how Afro-Asian countries would continue to oppose colonialism and Western domination. The NAM held its first conference in Belgrade, Yugoslavia in 1961. NAM now has 120 members. अब NAM में 120 members हैं और ये लोग उसके against थे कि colonialism और western domination हमारे इसमें नहीं चलेगा. The NAM was based on the Panchashil principles, which are set of 5 principles. The Panchashil of the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence were formulated as guiding principles of India's foreign policy and were first put forward. और ये peaceful coexistence मतलब यहाँ पर झगड़े की कोई भी जगह नहीं है. That they wanted. पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने जो 5 ये जो पंचशील प्रोग्राम बनाया था वो क्या था? Agreed with China. These 5 principles were, ये 5 principles थे: mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in domestic affairs, equality and cooperation for mutual benefit, peaceful coexistence. See, all these points are telling you that we want peace. We don't want to fight with anyone, and smoothly we want to run our country and develop our country. The non-aligned policy was not a matter of staying isolated or neutral. It does not mean that these countries remained aloof or neutral with regard to world affairs. They remained independent from military and political groups, but they took an active part in promoting peace, understanding and cooperation among nations. अब ये बिल्कुल अलग होने का मतलब ये नहीं है. They wanted to be peaceful. They wanted peace. झगड़ा नहीं चाहते थे. They didn't want any war to happen. So this was what their program was telling you. Now SARC, SAARC, that is the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, was established in 1985 to promote peace and cooperation among 7 South Asian countries. 7 जो South Asian countries में जो peace की जो बात चल रही थी वो SARC ने उठाई थी. And those countries were, Asian countries were India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives. Later Afghanistan was also made a member of SARC. Its headquarters were located in Kathmandu, Nepal. Some of its objectives and aims included promoting of economic and social progress, cultural development within the South Asian region, and also friendship and cooperation with other developing countries. यहाँ पर भी वो यही चाह रहे थे कि progress चाह रहे थे, and they wanted to be friendly. They wanted to be friendly, no fight, no violence. They wanted peace. In this also they wanted the same thing. Now India and her neighbors. Now we'll learn about the neighbors, that is Pakistan. Pakistan was created out of India and became a separate nation on 14th August 1947. Now, even though both countries were shared close cultures and historical links, the relationship between the two countries has not always been harmonious. The major cause of friction has been the state of Kashmir. Now, ये पाकिस्तान इंडिया की जो मेजर लड़ाई है वो कश्मीर के पीछे होती है. Since their independence, the two countries have fought wars with each other, except for the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971, which resulted in the formation of Bangladesh, earlier East Pakistan. पहले ही बांग्लादेश नहीं था, but after the War of Indo-Pakistan War 71 में बांग्लादेश भी सेपरेट हो गया था. The other wars have been on the Kashmir issue. बाकी जो wars हो रही है वो सिर्फ कश्मीर issue पे हो रही है. Various efforts have been made to improve the relationship between India and Pakistan. For example, train and bus services were started to bring the people of India and Pakistan into closer contact. अब बहुत सारी चीज़ें इन लोगों ने गवर्नमेंट ने शुरू करी थी जिससे ये एक हो जाए. The like bus and train services they started so that the people can travel from India to Pakistan. Now Bangladesh. At the time of independence, Bangladesh was the part of Pakistan. Bangladesh पाकिस्तान का पार्ट था, बट एट वॉज नोन एज ईस्ट पाकिस्तान. उसको ईस्ट पाकिस्तान बोलते थे. द बांग्लादेशीज अंडर शेख मुजीबुर रहमान फॉट टू हैव अ कंट्री ऑफ देयर ओन. अब मुजीबुर रहमान को क्या चाहिए था कि उनको पाकिस्तान में नहीं रहना था, उनको अपनी एक सेपरेट कंट्री बनानी थी. दे रिसीव सपोर्ट फ्रॉम इंडिया इन देयर एंडेवर. अब उनको इसका सपोर्ट इंडिया ने दे दिया था. इन 1971 बांग्लादेश बिकेम एन इंडिपेंडेंट नेशन. 1971 में बांग्लादेश को भी इंडिपेंडेंस मिल गया था. इंडिया has provided financial and material aid to Bangladesh. इंडिया ने बहुत सारे उनको हेल्प करी थी बांग्लादेश को financially and material, especially in times of natural calamities. However, some differences exist between the two nations, such as illegal immigration of people from one country to another, sharing of water resources. But अभी भी बांग्लादेश इंडिया में भी थोड़ा बहुत फाइट्स हो रहे हैं और द लीगल इलीगल इमिग्रेशन जो हो रहा है वहाँ से अपनी कंट्री में जो लोग आ रहे हैं इंडिया में, फॉर दैट एंड फॉर वाटर रिसोर्सेज. नाउ दीज वर द प्रॉब्लम्स which are faced by the countries over there. Now China is another neighboring country. Since ancient times, both India and China have had cultural and trade ties with each other. After gaining independence, both countries entered into diplomatic relations with each other. In 1954, a Sino-Indian agreement was signed between Jawaharlal Nehru and Zhou Enlai, the Chinese Prime Minister, which was based on the Panchashil principles. In 1959, China built a road through the Aksai Chin district of Ladakh and refused to recognize the McMahon line as the border. In the same year, the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of the Tibetan people, sought sanctuary in Dharamshala in Himachal Pradesh. China accused India of expansionism and imperialism in Tibet. In 1962, there was a Sino-Indian war which ended in ceasefire. Relationship between the two nations further deteriorated. China supported Pakistan during the Indo-Pak wars. अब यहाँ पर भी चाइना इंडिया के अगेंस्ट जा रहा था और वो पाकिस्तान को सपोर्ट कर रहा था. एंड जब उनकी जो 1962 में जो वॉर हुई थी उसके बाद उसमें भी एज अ सीज फायर इट हैड एंडेड. वॉर का कोई कंक्लूजन नहीं निकला था. देयर वाज सीज फायर. Since the later 1980s, relationship between the two countries have been gradually improving. They have attempted to resolve the border disputes through talks. अब बहुत 1980s के बाद तो थोड़ा सा रिलेशंस इम्प्रूव हुए थे चाइना के एंड बॉर्डर टॉक मतलब टॉक्स से वो लोग उसको सॉल्व कर रहे थे. जो बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट से दे वर टॉकिंग एंड दे वर सॉल्विंग. दे वर नॉट हैविंग वॉर्स बिटवीन देमसेल्व्स. नाउ श्रीलंका इज एन अदर नेबर. इंडिया एंड श्रीलंका हैव ऑल्सो हैड क्लोज रिलेशनशिप सिंस एंशिएंट टाइम्स. पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस द tensions between the Sinhalese and Tamil citizens of Sri Lanka have caused tensions between the two nations. The Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, that is LTTE, was a separatist movement of Tamil people in Sri Lanka. It wanted to create an independent state within Sri Lanka for the Tamil population. यहाँ पर इनको independent state चाहिए थी for the Tamil people. This resulted in the Sri Lankan war. अब यहाँ पर Sri Lankan war हो गई क्योंकि उनकी तो civil war चल रही थी आपस में. Continued in 1833 till about 2009, when the LTTE was finally defeated by the military of Sri Lanka. After subsequent negotiation, फिर इंडिया अगेन एंड श्रीलंका एंटर्ड इनटू एन एग्रीमेंट. वापस इंडिया एंड श्रीलंका दे एंटर्ड इनटू एन एग्रीमेंट in 1987. The peace accords assigned a certain degree of regional autonomy to the Tamil areas and called for the Tamil militant groups to lay down their arms. Further, India sent an Indian peacekeeping force. इंडिया ने अपनी peacekeeping force वहाँ पर भेजी थी to Sri Lanka to resolve the ethnic conflict which was withdrawn in 1990. अब उन्होंने उनको बोला था कि आपके ये civil war को stop करने के लिए actually India wanted to help them and then it was withdrawn in 1990. Now Nepal. In 1950, New Delhi and Kathmandu initiated their intervening relationship with the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. The 1950 treaty stated that neither government shall tolerate any threat to the security of the other by a foreign aggressor and obligated both sides to inform each other of any serious friction or misunderstanding with the neighboring state likely to cause any breach in the friendly relations subsisting between the two governments. It also gave the Indian and Nepali citizens the right to get involved in work and business related activities in each other's countries. अब यहाँ पर ये peace and friendship का भी इन्होंने साइन करा था, ट्रीटी साइन करी थी नेपाल और इंडिया ने. एंड दे वांटेड द सिटीजन्स टू बी फ्री लाइक फॉर द बिजनेस एंड फॉर द वर्क फ्रॉम दिस कंट्री टू दैट कंट्री. नाउ रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन इंडिया एंड नेपाल रीच्ड इट्स लोएस्ट ड्यूरिंग 1989. बट जो इनके रिलेशनशिप वो थोड़े से कमज़ोर पड़ते गए इन 1989 व्हेन इंडिया imposed a 13-month long economic blockade on Nepal. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Nepal in 2014. It was the first visit by the Indian Prime Minister in nearly 17 years. अब इतने 17 साल में 17 years में not a single Prime Minister had been to Nepal to solve any dispute, but Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of today, had gone 2014 में he went. 17 years के बाद कोई एक इंडिया का Prime Minister नेपाल में गया था to solve the problem over there. The Nepal earthquake in April 2015 saw Indian government and many social workers agencies and common people involving in providing relief and rescue aids to the victims. और यहाँ पर 2015 में जब वहाँ पर जो earthquake आया था, that time Indian government had helped them and provided aid to them. Myanmar. India has held long historical relations with Myanmar since centuries. Its cultural exchanges included Buddhism and Burmese script. Myanmar, formerly Burma, was a province of British India under the British rule. It was separated in 1937. India established diplomatic relations with Myanmar independence from Great Britain in 1945. 1948. India provided support for Myanmar struggle with regional insurgencies. The overthrow of the democratic government by the military of Myanmar led to strains in ties. Since 1993, the governments began establishing cordial relationship between the two countries. अब यहाँ पर भी काफ़ी कुछ relation 1993 में म्यांमार से improve हो गए इंडिया के. Bhutan had become a protectorate of British India in 1910. It had signed a treaty that allowed the British to guide its foreign affairs and defense. In later years, Bhutan was one of the first to recognize India's independence in 1947. Bhutan and India signed the Treaty of Friendship on August 8, 1949. They called the peace between the two nations and non-interference in each other's internal affairs. Bhutan continued to let India guide its foreign policy, and both nations consulted each other closely in foreign and defense affairs. अब यहाँ पर ये these are the people, Bhutan, the people, they are friendly, they are acting friendly, they are not interfering in their business anymore. And India strengthened the 1949 treaty with Bhutan and signed a new treaty of friendship in 2007. 2007 में उन्होंने treaty of friendship sign करी थी. A new treaty replaced the provisions required Bhutan to take India's guidance on foreign policy with broader sovereignty. It also stated that Bhutan will not require to obtain India's permission for the import of arms. In 2008, India's then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh visited Bhutan and strongly supported Bhutan's democracy. India has allowed 16 entry and exit points for Bhutanese trade with other countries. Now they have allowed this, they have helped the Bhutan people to do this business. Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi chose Bhutan for his first foreign trip. He had inaugurated Supreme Court complex in Bhutan and also promised to help Bhutan in the development, information technology and digital sectors. Here also Narendra Modi has helped them for that. Sources. A large number of sources such as newspapers, government documents, writing of leaders, journalists and social workers are available for study of post-independence India. These are easily available, are reliable and help us to gain information about the history of India after independence. Now these are the sources from where you can learn about the history of India independence. So this was the chapter, the 14th chapter, India's after independence. Thank you.